Today's episode of Behind the Numbers is brought to you by Hafley Flanagan. Hafley Flanagan is a full-service accounting firm that's been serving our clients since 1967. We are not your typical accounting firm. Our services extend well beyond tax and audit to include valuation services, strategic and succession planning, leadership development, and more. When you work with Hafley Flanagan, we help you realize your long-term goals. Learn more at hfco.com or call 856-722-5300.
Hi everyone, welcome to Behind the Numbers. My name is Dave Bookbinder and we're coming to you live from the RVN Television Studios. I am pleased to welcome to my right, Keith Baldwin, who is the CEO at Spike's Nationally Famous. You may know about them with their trophies. Author of this book, A Leap Year of First, and host of the Trophy Moments podcast. Welcome to Behind the Numbers, Keith.
Thanks, David. It's great to be here.
It's a pleasure. For the folks who don't know you, the folks that are out of the Philadelphia area, tell folks about who you are and Spike's and what you do.
Okay, I've been at Spike's, which is a trophy manufacturer. All types of awards we make, and we distribute promotional products to anything with a logo. And we also have a sign division where we make interior signage, braille signage, for mostly eds and meds in the Philadelphia and surrounding areas.
Interesting. I was just saying before we went on the air here that my fantasy football league has been getting the trophy done every year at your shop.
We do a fair amount of those.
You do great work, man. I want to talk to you about a variety of things here, but I'm going to first start with something you had mentioned to me in passing before, that you always wanted to be a business owner, even at age like 18.
Yes. It was the first goal I ever wrote to myself. That I wanted to own the company that I worked for with my friends. And I wrote it when I was 18 years old.
Let's unpack that. How did it work out?
It took me 25 years to accomplish it.
So you're an overnight success.
Yeah, it took me a little while to get there, and I achieved it.
You got to give us more than that. Let's hear about your journey.
Okay.
It's a half-hour program. You can't do that.
So I started working when I was 14. For a defunct company, Gold Medal Sporting Goods.
I remember them.
Okay, and I was putting myself through school. I started at the bottom. I was their skate sharpener and and a tennis racket stringer, and then worked myself up. And I was going to Temple University at the time, and I was running one of their stores. I was part-time in their retail locations as they were expanding. And they bought this distressed trophy company, Spike's, needed somebody to run it. I was a half-assed student and dropped out and threw my hat in the ring, and I went to Spike's Trophies. That was basically left for dead. I didn't know anything about the trophy business. And probably a good thing I was young enough and dumb enough and didn't know that I shouldn't succeed. And I just lived there and I worked. And when I wrote that goal, I remember sitting there and I was crying because I didn't think I could make it. And just out of sheer luck, I guess.
Yeah, well, it's more than luck.
And hard work.
I want to unpack something you just said when you said that you didn't know that you shouldn't fail, or that you shouldn't succeed, rather.
Yeah, I'm not that smart.
Yeah, so within that statement, it underpins so many issues that entrepreneurs have, and it's the head trash. Talk about that. How did you move past it? It wasn't just you weren't smart enough. All right, maybe it was. But
I don't know if I didn't. I just worked, and I learned, and I wanted to learn because I wrote that goal.
Yeah. And
I wanted to achieve it. So I started. When I said I wasn't a very good student, I was, and I just started reading business books. A whole bunch of them, and sort of taught myself business by being in it and reading.
Yeah. It's funny, when you write things down, it sort of changes the whole vibe about that particular goal, doesn't it?
When I meet young people and I talk to them about their futures or whatever, I ask them, do you have a goal? And then I ask them, have they written it? So I do believe in writing a goal.
And what do you believe is the power of the writing of the goal?
I can't remember where I read it or what book. It was one of some business book, and they're in many business books about writing a goal. And when you commit to it, I don't know, it gives you some power. It gives you some vision. It gives you a driver.
Yeah. There's some neuroscience component that goes on there. Something happens within your brain and your subconscious and your ability then to just execute on that because you've written it down, you're committed to it.
Yeah, and I haven't written many goals, but when I do, I commit.
Nice. Speaking of commitment, I want to talk a little bit about the global pandemic, because you had a very interesting experience when the world began to shut down. Why don't you share that with the audience?
So if you think about my business, we're in the people business. We're in the entertainment business. And people, when you get awards, you meet. You're in groups. You're in venues. Well, there were no venues. There were no meetings. Basically, we're out of business. And I'd started that year, committed to doing something for the first time in my life every day. And I was writing a daily journal for the first time in my life. And then the pandemic came upon us and gave me some unwanted firsts. First time I ever laid off an employee, which was, I laid them all off. I had 50 employees, and I was laying them off on March 20th at 2:30 in the afternoon because all our customers get canceled. Their awards, their ceremonies, and stroke of good luck, relationships. I got an opportunity to hire them all back same day, 2 hours later, to become a call center for the state of New York. We partnered with AnswerNet. They needed people to fill a job that they had just gotten to set up COVID test appointment calls when the body bags were building up in New York City. So we turned ourselves into a call center over a weekend. I look back, it seems fictional. And we became a call center for a year while our business went away. And when it came back, we stopped being a call center and got back into the awards business.
Wow, that's a fascinating story. And I'm sure you learned a lot of lessons along the way. Anything you can share with the audience and business owners who would love to learn from your wisdom?
Don't give up. Rely on others and just work the problem. And at first you feel like having a pity party. Why me? And that's only good for so long.
Yeah.
So limit my pity party. I did that, and then I started to go to work, and I was networking with the small business community in Philadelphia, which produced the opportunity.
Yeah, and I know, and you and I have had conversations in the past, and you've shared with me how important your people are to your organization. How gratifying was that for you to be able to basically reverse that negative call that you had to make?
We talked about core values, and one of the core values is care and caring for them. I'll do anything for my people, and finding them jobs and giving them a purpose and keeping them afloat was just, that became a written goal of mine, to take care of my employees. So yes, it's very valuable to me and to my organization.
Yeah, and that's such a great philosophy, and you know what I talk about and write about. So when you talk about the idea that your employees really matter to you and they see that and you're embodying it in your day-to-day activities, what have you seen in response to that from your employees?
Just dedication, and just a return of that care. And I've got a lot of long-term employees, so I'm blessed. And it's important for me to take care of them and have them take care of me. It's symbiotic. I mean, I depend on them, and they've given me a lot of freedom as I've gotten older to go do some things that I never could have done. And vice versa, I've given them an opportunity.
Yeah, and when you talk about when I talk about the reciprocity piece, when I think about in my career, and I speak about this all the time, working for leaders who cared about their people, leaders that cared about me, my specific circumstances, thought of me as a human being, I would walk through fire for them. And in your world,
I'd walk through fire for them.
Yeah, say that again.
I'd walk through fire for them.
And they know that about you, don't they?
And through the pandemic, we walked through fire together.
Yeah, and I'm sure that they would do the same for you, 100%. Keith, for folks who are out there watching and listening, want to learn more about you, your journey, how they can work with you, how they can get trophies, whatnot, what's the best way for them to connect with you?
You can go to our website at gospikes.com. You want to reach me? It's keith@gospikes.com, and you can email me.
There you go. I want to talk to you about the subject of resilience. It's a topic that is often brought up in the context of leadership and working with teams and so forth. And with all that you've experienced, resilience had to be a theme along the way.
A few times. We talked about the pandemic, obviously.
Yeah.
30% of my industry went away during the pandemic, and they just didn't make it out. So as the business came back, we're busier than we've ever been because of the survival aspect of it. And we've taken over a couple of our competitors during that process. Help me, I just lost my train of thought. You were saying resilience.
Yeah.
Resilience in another goal of mine, which was owning our real estate in Philadelphia, in Northeast Philadelphia, our building. That took a lot out of us to get that. There's a lot of sweat equity in that building.
Yeah.
Me, my partners, and my employees did a lot of work to make that a reality. I don't come from money, so we have had to earn it. And their help in achieving those goals, whether it's surviving the pandemic or getting the real estate that we now live in, there's a lot of resilience there.
Yeah, I want to talk to you about, you mentioned that you've taken over some other companies, and one of the biggest challenges that I've seen and heard people speak about as well in the acquisition of another business is the integration of two organizations.
Yep.
So it's not just about putting the systems together, it's about putting the people together.
Culture.
Yeah. What was your experience in doing that? How did you do it?
I've done it a number of times now, over many years. I don't know how many now, 6 or 7 companies that I've acquired in my industry. Culture is a big part of it. I've walked away from some where it just didn't fit. Culture is such a big part of an acquisition. I've heard, I've talked to other people where it's worked and the cultures fit, and I've seen it where the cultures didn't fit and it pulled the acquisition apart or it made it not successful.
Oh yeah, yeah, 100%. I mean, I depending on where you get your data, and I publish this and talk about this, between, I think it's 75 and 90% of deals fail to deliver the perceived synergies, you know, the 1 + 1 = 3 thing, because of the inability to integrate the two cultures.
Yep.
Yeah.
I've seen it. I've experienced it. So I agree with that, and I've read it. I've read similar things. I don't know if I've read it in your book and other books, but I've seen it play out for me personally.
Yeah, and we're going to maybe unpack that a little bit more, but we've got to take a quick pause. So you sit tight, folks watching and listening. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back on Behind the Numbers after this quick break.
Un ataque cerebral puede ser fácil de detectar. Su ser querido no logra hablar o quizás no puede mover, causando...
Or are you going to take your loan back?
We're gonna take it back.
We're gonna take it back.
With Scott's Turf Builder Triple Action, it gets 3 jobs done at once. Kills weeds, prevents crabgrass, and keeps your lawn growing strong. Glorious!
No.
Get a bag of Scott's Triple Action today. It's guaranteed.
Feed it long.
And Doug.
Hey, man. Nice base. Clearly you're a safe driver. You could save hundreds for safe driving with Liberty Mutual. They customize your car insurance. So you only pay for what you need. Woo! We gotta go again.
Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
I learned how quickly everything can be taken away. 1 minute, I was playing college football. The next, I was paralyzed. I'm Eric LeGrand. I believe I will walk again, but also know what I can do now. I'm applying my love of the game as a sports broadcaster and inspiring others along the way. Only my abilities matter. Visit Kessler Foundation on Facebook and tell us your abilities. And go to KesslerFoundation.org, where only abilities matter.
And welcome back to Behind the Numbers. I'm Dave Bookbinder, and he is Keith Baldwin, the CEO at Spike's Nationally Famous. Keith, you've written this book, A Leap Year of First. I don't know if the camera can catch that. We're showing it there. But I want you to tell the audience what inspired you to write this, and what can they find inside it?
Well, it was inspired by Luann Kahn. She was a journalist, Emmy-winning journalist, cancer survivor, who wrote a book. And I was in her audience on December 5th, 2019, and she challenged the audience to do something new. And write it down, share the person with the person next to you, and write a goal, basically. And I wrote fly a plane. Something I always wanted to do. I'm older, didn't think that was ever going to be accomplished, time, money, etc. Yeah. And during that, she inspired me, and I stayed to get her book and have her sign it for me. And I told her, you inspired me. I'm going to go do my own year of first, something new. And I started out on the quest, and I stole some things from her and did a number of things that I wanted to do, and I went off on the first. And it was diverse. And when you do something every day for the first time, you have to really get creative. At least I did. Driving the speed limit for a day. Exactly. I'll never do it again.
Driving the speed limit? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, it was hard. People behind you beeping you and just showing you love in different ways.
Yeah. I've got the Sammy Hagar song, I Can't Drive 55, running through my head right now, just so you know.
I was scheduled to go to Israel, and I wanted to learn about all the different religions. So I would go and drop in on different religious ceremonies. I ended up flying that plane July 1st. Out of Northeast Philadelphia Airport. I slept on the streets of Philadelphia with the homeless for a night on December 5th, 2020, because I wanted to know what it was like to lose everything. Because going through the pandemic and being my business almost out of business, it gave me a lot of perspective, and it gave me a lot of gratitude for what I had. Yeah. So it was a journey, and I did a lot of different things. I went to YouTube University, as I call it, because when you don't know how to do something, you haven't done it, how to tie a bow tie, how to juggle, how to do a lot of different things. So that's what the year was about.
How did you come up with this list? I mean, some of them, like you said, were sort of the monumental, really deep things, like sleeping on the street, and some things are the smaller things. But how did you compile a list of an everyday activity? You just start, okay, well, like I said, her book, I Dare Me, was her book, Luann Kahn. So I stole some things out of there. Yeah. And then I had a number of things that I already had planned. I thought I was going to Israel to travel. So that built on a number of different things, and there was things that I was always curious about. I'm not proud of this, but I wore high heels because I wanted to see what it was like to walk around in high heels. How do women do that all day? I don't understand. Wow. So it just became things that I was curious about. Now, sleeping on the streets of Philadelphia, I never shot a gun before. I shot a gun. So there's different things that I just didn't do, and
experienced different
Yeah,
things.
it's fascinating because so many of us think about trying different things, but we're so caught up in our day-to-day routine and limiting beliefs and whatnot that we just don't get there.
That was the point. So now I kind of I have a podcast that I'm going to invite you on, which is it's about first. I ask people what's something in your life
It's
that
called
you've-
Trophy Moments.
Trophy
Tell people
Moments,
where they can listen to it.
So you can find it on YouTube or anywhere that you look for podcasts. You just type in Trophy Moments, and if you first my name, and it'll come up. And I just completed my first season, and I'm about to go into my second season. And so I asked for what's the trophy moment of your life, and then also what's a first, and get to know the people in a half an hour format. Trophy moments because of my business.
Yep,
I'm in the trophy business.
Believe me, I get it. I've got my book right there, the new ROI, Going Behind the Numbers, which is a compendium of the conversations on this show. So I get the idea of marrying the brands. On your book here, it says, How I Found My Why, and I know from talking to you, you mentioned something about finding your why to exceed your limits. We hear about our why. Simon Sinek made the why famous. Talk about how you found yours and how does that help you day to day?
Well, my why in that period was to help people with jobs. So not only did first time I ever started working with other companies to help other companies keep their people employed. And I worked with a caterer, I worked with a number of different organizations in that period. I belonged to a national buying group. People like me around the country, there's 65 of us. We're usually the largest within our geography. And we were all going out of business. And I ended up helping a number of those people, hiring a number of their employees to be part of this call center. I hired a number of different people from other organizations to become part of the call center during that time, and just helping people. That's why sleeping on the streets of Philadelphia and losing everything. A job gives people purpose. It gives them the ability to do many things, pay for their bills. So that was, during that time frame, that was my why.
Yeah. For folks who are intrigued to learn more about you, Keith, what's the best way for them to connect with you, and where can they get the book?
You can go on Amazon and buy it. You can buy it at bookbaby.com, which is, I'm a self-publisher, and BookBaby published the book. And you can find me at gospikes.com on the website, or keithbaldwinfirst.com, which is my author site.
Yeah, that's a great site too. Definitely be sure to check that out. So, Keith, today's episode is sponsored by Hafley Flanagan, and I believe you are a client of the firm. Is that right?
Yes, for a number of years. I don't know. You're going to ask me how many years?
No, I'm not going to ask you that. I'm going to ask you
a number of years.
If you wouldn't mind sharing what your experience has been in working with them.
Great. Every time I ask a question, I get great answers quickly. And I think that's a sign of a great organization. When you get an answer quickly and you get experienced answers. I came from a single person firm, and we were growing at the time. Like I said, it's probably over 10 years. It's probably 15 years that I've been with Hafley. And I sought them out, and they have been great. And they've helped me with a number of different things over time.
I know they'd appreciate that. So thanks for sharing that with us. I want to jump back into something you mentioned about your ability to quickly turn around the bad news around the pandemic. And you talked about having relationships. And you've said, build relationships before you need them.
Yes.
Talk to the audience a little bit about that.
Well, on my card, I'm the Chief Relationship Officer of my company. I'm responsible for the relationships with my employees, my vendors, and my customers. And I belong to a number of networking opportunities. That expression is stolen from one of them, which is BCA, Business Clubs of America, where we look to build relationships before we need them. And the relationships during the pandemic was with my bank, First Trust Bank, where I called them, told them I was going out of business, I was shutting the doors, didn't know what was going on. They offered me loans to keep me afloat. I turned them down because I didn't know that I'd be able to pay them back. I didn't need any more debt. And they had another person, internet, on the other side of this that was growing, put us together. So out of that relationship, it saved my company.
Yeah. We are really down to the wire here, but I want to ask you one last thing and give you the final word if you don't mind. I would like you to share any piece of advice that you might have for any folks in the audience, in leadership, business owners, what have you. What would be some of the, or a key thing that you would like to impart?
Limit your pity party when things go wrong. And ask yourself good questions, and ask good questions of others. And then work the problem with a calm head, and with the answers to those questions that you've asked yourself and others. Good questions.
Yeah. Thank you. Unfortunately, we are out of time. I do appreciate you joining us here today, Keith. This has been a really fun conversation.
I appreciate the opportunity, David.
It's been a pleasure. We've been talking with Keith Baldwin, who's the CEO at Spike's Nationally Famous and author of this book, A Leap Year of Firsts. He's also the host of the Trophy Moments podcast. Definitely check that out. Check out the book. Check out his website. Lots of great information. I want to thank Hafley Flanagan for sponsoring this episode of Behind the Numbers today. Be sure you check them out at hfco.com. Apparently they are a great firm to work with, so definitely check them out. Thanks to the Big Cheese for running the board. Thank you in the audience for watching and supporting this program. Can't do it without you. And again, my name is Dave Bookbinder, and I'm known for helping my clients in valuing their businesses and intellectual property assets. If you're like many business owners who don't know what your business is worth, we should probably have a conversation. So feel free to hit me up on LinkedIn. I'm always happy to chat. That's all we have for today, folks. We'll see you next time on Behind the Numbers. Take care.
Today's episode of Behind the Numbers is brought to you by Hafley Flanagan. Hafley Flanagan is a full-service accounting firm that's been serving our clients since 1967. We are not your typical accounting firm. Our services extend well beyond tax and audit to include valuation services, strategic and succession planning, leadership development, and more. When you work with Hafley Flanagan, we help you realize your long-term goals. Learn more at hfco.com or call 856-722-5300.